Traditionally, the day features parades by the labor unions, the Nigeria Labour Congress, and the Trade Union Congress for fair wages and better working conditions. From its carnival-like celebration in the 1980s, May Day has become a more sober event, a situation commentators say are partly based on security concerns and majorly because the plight of the Nigerian gives no cause for celebration. In fact, early last month, the Nigeria Labour Congress issued a statement to workers in states yet to fully implement the 2024 National Minimum Wage Act to mark the International Workers' Day with street protests, warning against participation in official celebrations organized by defaulting state governments. The labor unions have also persistently called on governments to provide some sort of relief for Nigerian workers in the face of the hardship occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidies and the war in Iran, which have cumulatively led to an astronomical rise in the prices of virtually everything. On Kakaaki this Friday, we will look at the significance of the day celebration on Nigeria, the lingering labor-related issues, and what sort of celebrations to expect today. Now, joining us to do this is Amoge Chukwudi, chairman of the Trade Union Congress here in the Federal Capital Territory. Thursday also was a busy day for Nigeria's Supreme Court as it delivered key judgments which will have far-reaching ramifications for the countdown to the 2027 general elections. In one of its judgments, the Apex Court invalidated the People's Democratic Party's National Convention held in Ibadan from November 15 to 16, 2025, which produced executives aligned with Tamino Tiraki. The court ruled that the convention was conducted in clear disregard of existing court orders and described it as an abuse of court processes. The Supreme Court has also dismissed the second appeal filed by the PDP, its National Working Committee, NWC, and National Executive Committee, NEC, which it said is against the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Abuja, which affirmed the earlier decision by Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, restraining the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from monitoring the Ibadan Convention, pending when conditions precedent were met. In a split judgment of 3-2, Justice Uwonsu Iheme, who read the lead judgment, condemned in strong terms the disobedience of court order. In all, both appeals have been dismissed for lacking in merit. The Supreme Court ordering parties in the leadership disputes in the African Democratic Congress as well to maintain status quo, delivering anonymous judgment on Thursday. A 5-member panel of the Apex Court, headed by Mohammed Garba, faulted the order of the Court of Appeal, which asked the parties in the suit to maintain status quo. The Apex Court held that the Court of Appeal acted beyond its jurisdiction by unilaterally issuing the status quo order. The Apex Court, however, maintained that the appellate court was right in ordering parties to return to the Federal High Court, where party leadership tussle exists. On the issue of jurisdiction, the court faulted the appellant, noting that the Apex Court has the jurisdiction to entertain appeals from the lower courts, citing the sections 233 of the 1999 Constitution. Parties are now ordered to go back to the trial court. In the meantime, the Independent National Electoral Commission has relisted David Mark as the national chairman of the African Democratic Congress. On Kakaaki this Friday, we shall be examining the implications of the Supreme Court judgments on the leadership crisis rocking both the PDP, the ADC, and where this leaves the ruling All Progressives Congress. What implications also are there for the 2027 general elections? These are questions we shall seek answers to later on the program. Also remember that you can be part of the program by sending your views and comments to all our social media handles on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube at Africa Independent TV, so you can stay up to date with the latest news from around the world. So let's quickly join our news desk for more news. Do stay with us. Welcome to the World News on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Activists sailing on dozens of boats attempting to break Israel's maritime blockade of the Gaza Strip to deliver humanitarian aid say Israeli forces intercepted them overnight Wednesday to Thursday, detaining the crews while the flotilla was sailing near the southern Greek island of Crete. Organizers have said more than 70 boats and 1,000 people from around the world will be participating, with more vessels joining the original boats as the flotilla sailed east across the Mediterranean.
Their attempt comes less than a year after Israeli authorities foiled another effort by the activist group to reach Gaza. The distance is about 1,000 kilometers from Gaza. Israel's foreign ministry said in a post on X that it was taking about 175 activists from more than 20 boats in the flotilla to Israel. Israel and Egypt have imposed varying degrees of a blockade on Gaza since Hamas seized power from Palestinian forces in 2007. Israel says the blockade is needed to prevent Hamas from importing arms, while critics say it amounts to collective punishment of Gaza's Palestinian population. Turkey's foreign ministry condemned the seizure of the flotilla Thursday as an act of piracy. A fragile 6-month-old ceasefire in Gaza has halted the most intense fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas-led militants in the Palestinian enclave. But despite the ceasefire, Israeli attacks have killed more than 790 people, according to Gaza's health ministry. The ministry, part of the Hamas-led government, maintains detailed casualty as records that are seen as generally reliable by the United Nations agencies and independent experts. It does not give a breakdown of civilians and militants. Overall, the health ministry says 72,300 Palestinians have been killed since the war in Gaza began with the October 7, 2023 Hamas-led attack on Israel. Flotilla organizers have said they hope their latest attempt to reach Gaza will help highlight the living conditions endured by Palestinians in the territory, particularly as global attention has shifted focus to the United States and Israel's war against Iran. The flotilla's efforts to breach the blockade last year saw dozens of boats sailing near Gaza, with one crossing the 12 nautical mile line, marking the divide from the international waters to territorial waters. But all were ultimately intercepted and seized or turned away.
The leaders of major media companies around the world are calling on Israel's government to lift a ban keeping foreign journalists from being able to independently enter and report from Gaza, a barrier that's been in place since the war's start in 2023 and continues even after a ceasefire has been in place for more than 6 months. In a statement from the executives released Thursday, they say it is essential to allow journalists to question official accounts on all sides, to speak directly with civilians and report back what they witness firsthand.
From the BBC to CNN to MS Now, from the Associated Press to Reuters, to German news agency DPA to the Washington Post, the top editors of more than 24 organizations said the Israeli government has so far not responded to their efforts to discuss the situation. They questioned the country's rationales for why the restrictions are still in place. The letter was released at 5 a.m. local time on Thursday. Initially, Israel said the ban was necessary because foreign journalists allowed into Gaza could give away the positions of Israeli soldiers and endanger them. Other rationales have included that as an active battle zone, it was too dangerous. The army has occasionally brought foreign reporters in on highly controlled trips, but media outlets want independent access. According to the editor's statement, the heaviest fighting is over and there is a ceasefire in place, and the hostages have come home. Journalists do not pose a threat to Israeli troops. There is a mechanism in place, however restrictive, that allows aid workers to enter and exit the territory, while not journalists. There have been attempts at legal action to force the issue. The Foreign Press Association, which represents international media in Israel, Gaza and the West Bank, has been waiting on a decision from the Israeli Supreme Court on the petition for independent access to Gaza. While covering war would be fraught for any reporter, the Palestinian correspondents have also had to experience it on a personal level. Their homes destroyed, their loved ones killed. Their lives have been put at risk from military actions.
Nigeria joined the global community to mark Autism Awareness Campaign under the theme Inclusion for All, Bridging Gaps, Breaking Barriers. Events were held in Abuja and several state capitals. Organizers highlighted challenges faced by children and adults with autism in accessing education, healthcare, and employment. The Federal Ministry of Health said early diagnosis and intervention remain key gaps in the country's response to autism spectrum disorders. Data from the Nigerian ministry shows limited access to specialist care outside major cities. Parents and advocacy groups at the event called for implementation of inclusive education policies and increased training for teachers and healthcare workers.
Every child has value and dignity. No child is useless. No child with special needs is less capable. What is required is the effort the parents can make, and also the rest of the society, where the child passes through. So parents should not lose hope. The child can still, be better, live a meaningful life.
They are very wonderful individuals. They see life and our society from a different perspective. So with the necessary support, with all the help that they can get from us and from our settings, our schools, our religious institutions, they can thrive and they can contribute greatly to the greatness of our society and our country, Nigeria.
It is my 7th year of teaching in the classroom. And I think 5 years back, I never knew what was called autism. But we see children with learning challenges. We'll be wondering that why is this child not sitting still in one place? The next thing, you'll be angry, I want to spank, because the child is distracting your class, distracting others, not learning. We didn't know that it's beyond that the child needs help. So this awareness is a very good one, and I'm happy I'm a beneficiary of it.
The United Nations set aside April 2nd as World Autism Awareness Day to promote acceptance and inclusion of persons with autism. The Ministry of Women Affairs said it is reviewing the national policy on autism to align with global standards on disability inclusion. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reinstated the leadership of David Mark as national chairman of the African Democratic Congress on its official portal, just hours after a Supreme Court ruling. INEC had earlier removed Mark's name alongside that of Rauf Aregbesola as the party's national secretary, as well as other members of the party's leadership from its records. The commission's initial decision triggered days of political tension and uncertainty within the party and across the wider political landscape. And that's it for World News. Up next is Kakaaki Business. Do stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Kakaaki Business. We start the news with the economic impact of the ongoing US-Iran-Israeli war. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating as Iran warns of a long and painful response if Donald Trump administration resumes military strikes, raising fresh concerns over global oil supply disruptions. The crisis has kept the strategic Strait of Hormuz closed for weeks, cutting off nearly 20% of global oil and gas supply and sending crude prices above $120 per barrel before easing slightly. The conflict triggered by US-Israeli strikes on Iran has already impacted global infrastructure, with Amazon reporting damage to its cloud operation in the Gulf region, underscoring the widening economic fallout. Meanwhile, the United States economy recorded modest growth in the first quarter of the year, but rising inflation linked to the Middle East conflict is casting a shadow over future outlook. Data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis shows the economy expanded at an annual rate of 2%, supported largely by increased government spending following a previous shutdown. However, consumer spending slowed as fuel prices climbed above $4 per gallon, putting pressures on households and raising concerns about cost of living challenges. Economists say the Federal Reserve may hold interest rates steady amid inflation risk, even as the labor market shows signs of weakening and global uncertainties persist. In the United Kingdom, a new report shows cyber threat remains a major challenge for businesses in the United Kingdom, with over 40% experiencing attack in the past years. The UK government revealed that phishing remains the most common form of attack, affecting nearly 4 in 10 businesses. The official warns that the rise of artificial intelligence makes cyber more sophisticated, increasing risk for companies across inflation. Botswana has raised interest rates sharply to curb inflation, which is being driven by surging fuel and transport costs. Meanwhile, World Bank has increased its financial support to Gabon as the country moves to audit its public debt and stabilize its economy. In South Africa, Moody is restructuring its operations, reflecting broader shift in African financial landscape amid global economic uncertainty. In Nigeria, petrol prices in Nigeria are climbing sharply, nearing 1,400 naira per litre in some parts of the country as global oil tension intensify. The increase follows supply disruptions linked to the Middle East crisis and the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a key artery for global energy supply. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has raised its ex-depot price, while marketing across Lagos and other regions have adjusted pump prices upward in response. Industry operators warn that continued volatility could push petrol prices beyond 1,500 naira per litre if the conflict persists. Experts are calling on the federal government to introduce cushioning measures to protect consumers from rising transportation and food costs. Nigeria's oil revenue outlook faces uncertainty following the decision by the United Arab Emirates to exit OPEC alliance. Analysts say the move weakens the group's ability to stabilize global oil prices, reducing its influence in managing supply shocks. For Nigeria, this creates a risk of lower revenue if oil prices become more volatile while production challenges persist. Experts warn that without increased output, the country could face what they describe as double setback of weak prices and low production. They are urging reforms to boost investment, improve security, and maximize Nigeria oil production capacity. Nigerians have been urged to embrace tax payment as civic responsibility, stressing that consistent compliance is critical to funding national development, strengthening public services, and promoting accountability in governance. The call was made by the president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Innocent Ohagwa, at an event held in Abuja.
All those that are also into the tax profession and those that are not, to imbibe the habit of tax payment, because tax payment is a sacrifice you make to ensure that you live in a decent society. When you pay your tax, you can hold our leadership at all levels responsible. But if you don't pay your tax, you don't have a local standing to start questioning, what government are doing.
Other speakers at the event also emphasized the importance of voluntary compliance while urging government to ensure tax payment leads to better life for Nigerians.
In that, we will be able to say the country is leveraging the human capacity, the endowments, the resources, and the intellectual capacity we have for the betterment of the entire citizens. Because we can't experience any meaningful progress without the financing that is required to finance that development and progress. And we can only achieve that through taxation.
As this new tax regime takes effect, our expectation is that it will widen the revenue base of government. And that every additional kobo collected must translate to better roads, better schools, better hospitals, and a better life for the Nigerian people. That is the social contract, because revenue without impact is extortion.
Stakeholders says building trust between taxpayers and government remains essential, noting that visible impact of tax contribution will encourage greater compliance and foster a more accountable society. And lastly, Dar Communications PLC is charting a path towards recovery with improved financial performance in 2025, reflecting the impact of ongoing reforms. Riding on this momentum, shareholders have re-elected Raymond Dokpesi Jr. as chairman, alongside Director Emeka Mba, at the company's 17th and 18th annual general meeting in Abuja. At the annual general meeting of Nigeria's pioneer private broadcaster, Dar Communications PLC reported a steady progress of annual turnover of 5.43 billion naira in 2025. This represents a significant improvement when compared to the 2.34 billion naira loss recorded in 2024. Management described the reduced losses as clear indication that ongoing restructuring and strategic reforms are beginning to yield positive results.
That the restructuring strategies we have put in place has resulted to improvement in the operations, improvement in our performance, and consequent reduction in the loss. But our ultimate objective is to return the company to profitability. I believe I want to use the opportunity to assure our shareholders that the years ahead are very promising.
To a financial system.
Addressing shareholders, Chairman Raymond Dokpesi Jr. expressed confidence in the company's recovery trajectory, assuring investors and the Nigerian public that deliberate steps have been put in place to restore the organization to its leadership position in the broadcast industry.
It is a long journey. I think the most significant efforts we can make are towards restructuring of some of our legacy statutory and non-statutory debts. It's important for us to also be able to improve the liquidity in the company and put in place the proper foundations in terms of the operational workflows that we will operate by. We are also working very closely with statutory agencies of government as well as regulators to see how we can improve the economic and political support for the entire industry.
The foundation has been set, the corrections have been made going forward, that AIT would move back to the preeminent position as the premier private broadcasting organization in Nigeria. It's done all the plumbing, looking at all the pipelines and all the financial clogs have been removed. And going forward, the station is going to regain its prominence. Africa Independent Television. It will begin to resonate again all over the country and Africa-wide.
Meanwhile, shareholders reacted to the recent controversy involving alleged unlawful redistribution of shares of Dar Investment Company Limited and Dar Communications PLC in the portal of the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, an issue which the company have demanded to be investigated.
For us, the authentic display of the shareholdings of Dar is as shown by the register in the annual report.
Really have done in the past 2 years is yielding positive results. You see that all the liability are coming down. So that is to see there is a sign that something is actually going on.
With renewed leadership, improving financial indicators and a clear strategic direction, Dar Communications PLC says it is positioned itself for stability, growth, and a return to industry prominence, reaffirming its commitment to delivering credible and impactful broadcasting to Nigerians. Landry Babalola, AIT News, Abuja. And that's it on Kakaaki Business. Good morning.
Thank you, Larry. And Mr. Kakaaki, the African Voice. Up next is our social intervention corner. Do stay with us. So if you know someone...
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Jolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! time. Super job. Well done. Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today I'll be speaking to you on problem-solving skills, fundamentals for transforming organizations. You can never ever amount to anything outstanding until you have mastered the act of solving problems, and not even just solving problems, you've mastered the act of providing solutions to problems that will not just disappear. The bigger the problem you can handle, the more valuable you become. I have never seen anybody who has become successful in this life who lived a life of ease. I mean, everyone that has become amazing, has become sought after. They've been individuals who have been able to develop their minds in such a way that they can deal with very challenging problems, and they provide solutions. And in their communities, people come to them daily to help them solve one problem or another. So you need political class, a political class that is driven by the pursuit of solving problems and creating solutions within different sectors like never before. You need even non-political actors that would also master the act of solving problems. So whenever a lot of problems are in the environment, I have seen a lot of leaders, when they encounter problems, what do? They are afraid. They freeze, they are confused. Some people fall into depression just by encountering problems. But that's not how it works. So how do you become a better problem solver? It's a question you must ask yourself. First thing you must do is to define the problem clearly. Spend time, understand what the issue is. What is the major challenge? Because the moment you're able to understand what the challenge is, then the next thing you will do, which is the second thing, is to separate facts from feelings. It's not about how you feel. It's about what is real. So what do you know about the issue? For sure, what do you know about it? What are you assuming? What are you feeling? Don't confuse the three. What you know is different from what you feel. Third, generate multiple solutions. Don't stop at the first idea. That's why you must learn how to brainstorm. What are the different ways we can solve major problems? Write them on paper. Generate questions that can provoke very important responses. Very critical important. The fourth element is that evaluate your options. So what are the pros and the cons of each of the solutions? And then what are the risk factors that are available, and what are the costs? There is the opportunity cost. What is the scale of preference? I'm talking about how to be able to identify yourself as a major problem solver so that you can become amazing in providing results. The fifth element is that decide and act. Once a solution is in view, the next thing is action. That's why those leaders who have action mentality culture, they are those who make things happen. Analysis without action is paralysis. So make a decision and move forward. You can always adjust. And finally, in this context, is learn from it. After you have solved it, ask, what did we learn? How do we prevent this in the future? That is the mindset of somebody who is ready to sustain solution provision in this day and time. Be that person. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose to waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Look up, wear a smile. Here comes Lady Etty, etiquette queen. She's the one.
In a world where character, confidence, and social intelligence shape success, refinement becomes a powerful advantage. This is Etiquette with Etty, the inspirational pep talk series where renowned etiquette expert Lady Etty shares practical wisdom and transformational life lessons designed to help individuals navigate life with dignity, poise, and purpose. Welcome to Etiquette with Etty.
She's got grace. She's got style.
Have you ever met someone and 10 seconds later, you've already forgotten their name? That happens to the best of us. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine introducing yourself once and people remember you long after the conversation is over. That is the power of a refined introduction. Hello there, I am Etienne Akpansong, your preferred refinement pedagogue. And today, we're talking about something that can open doors for you anywhere in the world. How to introduce yourself properly. Many people think an introduction is simply saying your name. But in etiquette, an introduction is actually your personal brand in 30 seconds. It tells people 3 things immediately: who you are, what you represent, and the confidence you carry. A refined introduction creates respect even before you begin a conversation. Let me share 3 simple steps to creating a powerful introduction. Firstly, say your name clearly, not rushed, not mumbled. Good afternoon. My name is Etienne Akpansong. Your name deserves to be heard. Secondly, add a simple identity statement. Tell people what you do or what you represent. For example, I am an etiquette specialist and founder of Etiquette Africa. This gives context. Thirdly, connect. Add a warm statement that invites conversation. Something like, it's a pleasure to meet you, or I've heard wonderful things about this event. Is this your first time here? You see, connection transforms introductions into relationships. So instead of saying, hi, I'm Aminu, you say, hello, I am Aminu Suleiman, an energy specialist. I am delighted to meet you. Notice the difference? Your introduction is not just a greeting. It is your first impression in motion. Additionally, be pleasant in your approach. Wear a smile and show genuine interest in the person you're meeting. Refinement begins with how you present yourself to the world. And when you present yourself with confidence and grace, people will not only remember your name, they will remember who you are. Keep it elegant always. Thank you.
Today on Etiquette with Etty. Welcome back, and it's time for us to take a look at what the papers are saying. Newspaper review time, and I will not be doing this alone. I have 2 gentlemen joining me on this public holiday, so I applaud them for not slipping in extra. Starting with Emmanuel Aziken. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, my brother. Happy Workers' Day.
Same to you as well. Same to you. And Eziel Chanze. Good morning.
Good to have you there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so starting off with the papers, and we'll be looking at the Daily Asset, first paper on. And the bold story on the Daily Asset is Supreme Court restores Mark as ADC chairman, voids PDP Ibadan convention. Judges fault disobedience to court orders. Moving on now to disclosure news. 2027. Respite for ADC as Supreme Court restores David Mark-led NWC, axes Turaki's PDP NWC. Apex Court sets aside controversial status quo antebellum order. Berates appeal court for acting beyond jurisdiction. Page 2 of Disclosure News. To the Daily Sun, Supreme Court gives Mark-led ADC NWC lifeline, settles PDP's case, overrules appeal court, all factions to return to the High Court, sacks PDP's Turaki's leadership. Page 8 of the Daily Sun. Now to this, Nigeria. You acted unlawfully. Supreme Court voids PDP Ibadan Convention. Mark back as ADC chair. Factionalization over in PDP, says Wike. Page 4 of this, Nigeria. To the Authority newspaper, we have Supreme Court restores Mark as ADC chairman. Leadership tussle continues at Federal High Court. That starts on the front page and continues on page 2. And the Authority newspaper goes on to say, Turaki's PDP faction illegal. Court nullifies Ibadan Convention. Page 2 of the Authority. Moving on now to the Daily Monitor. We have ADC tussle, leadership tussle. Supreme Court sets aside Court of Appeal ruling, orders parties to maintain status quo antebellum in the leadership dispute within the party. That is the major headline from the Daily Monitor. Let's just look at above the name masthead there. NASU, SANU begin nationwide strike May 15, cite unresolved demands. Now to the Standard Times. Supreme Court restores Mark's ADship leadership, voids status quo order. Page 2. And we have FG approves 7 trillion naira for Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, Carter Bridge, others. Page 2 as well of the Standard Times. Moving on now to the Nigerian pilot. ADC crisis. Supreme Court restores Mark's leadership. Sets aside status quo antebellum made by appeal court. Rules that preservative directive could not validly continue after proceedings had been concluded. Page 8 of the Nigerian pilot. And workers mark May Day amid complaints of poor working conditions, insecurity. Page 6 of the Nigerian pilot. Now we're moving on now to the Leadership Friday. We have Supreme Court throws Mark-led ADC a lifeline, voids status quo order, invalidates Ibadan PDP convention. PDP factions clash over interpretation of judgment. And INEC released David Mark as ADC national chairman. Page 4 of the Leadership newspaper. To the Daily Global, Turaki-led PDP faction loses as Supreme Court voids Ibadan Convention. And we also have petrol nears 1,400 naira per litre as Dangote hikes price. Al Jazeera Friday is up next. We have Supreme Court quashes the recognition of Mark Aregbesola. Judgment reinforces rule of law in Nigeria. That's coming from Bolaji Abdullahi. And Apex Court nullifies PDP Ibadan Convention. All of that's captured on page 9 of Al Jazeera Nigeria Friday. Now to the Nigeria News Direct. FG establishes Nigerian aircraft leasing company to cut local airlines costs as Bicotney waives 132 billion naira damages. And that is page 15 of the Nigerian News Direct. And Nigerian News Direct goes on to say, fresh crisis brews in PDP as factions interpret Supreme Court ruling differently. Page 3 there. And to our final paper for today, the Business NG. We have U.S. to halt all financial aid to Nigeria over persistent insecurity crisis. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. And we have rising palm oil costs threaten food price stability in Nigeria. And that's our final paper for the day, talking about the Business NG. And let me go to my reviewers this morning, starting off with the Supreme Court ruling, which restored Mark as ADC chairman, voids PDP Ibadan Convention, and that is basically on almost all papers this morning. Let's start with Emmanuel. But there was a paper that went on to further talk about how both parties, in terms of in the PDP now, are interpreting the judgment, differently.
Coming first on the judgment on the ADC leadership crisis, I think what the Supreme Court did yesterday was a clear demonstration of the continued existence of the rule of law in this country, because it was being feared that with the way it was going, that judicial anarchy was about creeping up into the polity. And the decision of the Supreme Court, a unanimous decision to define and to take back the issues at play back to the lower courts, has given way for the courts to expressly determine what the issues at stake. The existential issue as concerning the state of democracy in the country has now, the cloud over the state of democracy in the country has been lifted up. Because talking to people yesterday, I understand, especially from those in the opposition, they felt as if they've been given a big sigh of relief to express themselves. And I must say, this has essentially recalibrated the political dynamics in the country, because there was a fear that we're going back to 1998, where you had all the parties converging on one person, all the parties that were allowed to exist converging on one person. But now, I think, for me, the sweet thing in this is that there's a fresh breath. Political actors are now going to come out to express themselves in a way that the electorate will be able to decipher. This person will be in a better or in a good position. And it is good for the ruling party, especially for President Bola Tinubu, for him to now come out and say, this is what I have done. And, you know, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I saw him at a meeting of his cabinet, talking to some of his ministers. I think when they were swearing in somebody, he was giving a charge to the ministers to go forth and do good. So whether he had an inkling of the judgment or not, he knew that, yes, whatever the Supreme Court was going to rule was going to have an impact on him and his marketing strategy towards the electorate. He's now going to, he will now come out to say, this is what I have done. This is what I'm going to do. And the opposition can now also come out and say, this is what we are going to do. They will now be able to challenge the ruling party. They will be able to put the President Tinubu to task. And I think that will be good for us in this country, so that democracy will be seen as having a bearing in our lives.
Okay, let me come to Ezeal Chadao with what Emmanuel has said. But looking at the ADC, there's also a caveat there: return back to the Federal High Court. Is that also giving room for a different, ruling? Because a lot of the ADC Mark-led leadership has been happy about it, but going back to the FHs, there should be any concern for them as a party. And then the PDP still having, reports flying, especially with the official handle of the PDP on X yesterday posted about how the Iron Wool suspension and co was also upheld. Is there any truth, to that?
First, on the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, we have been saying here that the judiciary should uphold what they are known for. And when you are given a role and saying that you are final, but that doesn't mean you are infallible. But you must be infallible because you are the final. I'm trying to quote late Justice Chikudifu Oputa. And that was exactly what the Supreme Court did yesterday in handling the two cases of the two political parties. Yeah, for the ADC, it is a momentary respite. It is not yet to huru for the party, because a day before the Supreme Court ruling, we saw an Abuja High Court asking INEC not to recognize all the state congresses conducted by the David Mark-led NWC. But the Supreme Court yesterday has restored the David Mark-led NWC of the party. And I also want to commend the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for swiftly moving into action. few hours after that judgment was given, INEC restored David Mark and all the NWC members of SDC on their website. That is the way to go. Like Emma said, 2027 nobody should see it as a walkover because there are issues. You have to prove your mettle because we have always said it here that the era of winning election by proxy, by ballot boxing, by writing, whatever you like, should be gone in Nigeria by now. Nigeria is a big country, for crying out loud. So our politics, our democracy should be transparent. And the Supreme Court has brought back the hope of the opposition. For example, like I just said here, actions, they have barely a few days now, to round up the party registration list and send to INEC. And they also have less than a month to conduct party primaries. I think what the Supreme Court has done is a temporary relief, like I said, because other cases are still coming up, especially when they asked David Mark and Nafi Balagombe to go back to the courts. And I also want to charge the courts to maintain the transparency, maintain that justice should prevail over who knows who. That is just highly, because this is 2028. Nigeria is fast approaching election period, so that election should be free, fair, without violence. We have seen when this thing was lingering that some groups have been, threatening there will be no election without this on ballot and stuff like that. Even yesterday, some northern groups were threatening that you can't vote in the north. If you come out to vote, you are doing on your own risk. But because maybe they have lacked confidence in the system. But I think with what happened yesterday, hope is being restored while they still continue their legal battle at the High Court. Then talking about PDP, what the Supreme Court did yesterday by not recognizing the Ibadan Convention was also based on facts. Before that convention, two high courts asked them not to go ahead with the planned November 15-16 convention. It was very obvious that a group of PDP state chairmen, led by the chairman of the party in Imo State, Honorable Austin Nwachukwu, and his colleagues in Rivers and Bayelsa and some other states, went to court, asking the court to stop the convention until all the state congresses are conducted. Another aspirant, the former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, also went to court challenging the party for not allowing him to obtain form. And based on these, two different high courts asked the party not to go ahead with the convention. But they relied on a state high court ruling in Oyo State and went ahead with the convention. That is also why we have been saying here that the judiciary should cleanse itself. Just like what the Apex Court said yesterday, that politicians should not be moving a similar case is in a particular court. You now go to another court of equal jurisdiction. And when this court gives, the two courts give different judgments, you now interpret the judgment the way it suits you. Just also like what happened yesterday. You saw that a clean case judgment that was given by the Supreme Court is being interpreted differently by the PDP. But the question is now is have you seen the CTC of the judgment? Was those who claim that Anyanwu, Kamaluddin and others, Batura and others have been sacked, was it part of the judgment of the Supreme Court? Was it part of the prayers of those who wanted to validate the Ibadan Convention that went to Appeal Court and Supreme Court too? Was it contained there? So why can't the party move together, hold itself together, based on the ruling of the final ruling of the Supreme Court? And these people have continued to, bring crisis in the party, knowing very well that this party has barely 3 weeks to conduct its primaries. Knowing very well that the party has less than 2 weeks to forward its list of members to to the Independent National Electoral Commission. So I think what is needed now is former Senate President Wabara-led BOT faction of the party should sheathe its sword, should make sure that as fathers, they are now seen as fathers of this party. It will be very, very, it will be a very big disappointment that the PDP, a party that led this country for good 16 years, a party that ushered in through democracy in Nigeria. It was under PDP that 1999, May 29 became a Democracy Day in Nigeria. It will be very, very disappointing that they contribute in the final burial of the party. But with what the Supreme Court has done yesterday, I think PDP should come together, pick their pieces, and move on.
Okay. Now, but another critical question is this issue of leadership problems, going to courts when we already have, rulings or laws to support it being an internal, matter. Now we have the ADC being directed to go back to the FHC. Isn't that also still a bit, contradictory as well?
Well, initially, in fact, my paper gwg.ng wrote a story to the effect that the David Mark leadership was still on the brink based on that judgment. Because you can imagine what happens if at the lower courts they now decide in favor of Alhaji Gombe. So there is that possibility and prospect that the ADC may not be able to shout Uhuru yet. And in fact, I do understand from my sources that some people in the APC were celebrating the judgment yesterday, that it's like a temporary relief, as it were, that the ADC was being prepared for the slaughter, that they may be shouting, yes, we've got. You see, there was visible excitement amongst the leaders and members of the ADC yesterday after the judgment. And the same celebration was also going on in the camp of the APC, who believe that Alhaji Gombe will get a later day judgment that will put the ADC in crisis. In fact, there are so many court cases presently challenging the ADC leadership. Okay. So there is a possibility, as it were, that they may have reverses. But I've been able to, from my sources, I also understand that the ADC, their relief and their joy is the fact that what they have done thus far have been affirmed by the courts. Okay. So having been affirmed, they just have a little window, about 9 days left now, to submit a list of members. And that closes the election space to any person that is not a member of the ADC. Okay. So let me tell you. So what happens now is that for the ADC, they are satisfied that whatever happens in the near future, whatever judgment that Gombe may get in the months or weeks to come, that the list of members and the list of candidates that is brought forward by the David Mark leadership is going to contest the election. Irrespective, even if David Mark were to be removed after May 10th, but that the candidates he has brought forth are going to stand the election. Okay. So that is what those who are celebrating in the APC do not yet know.
Okay, all right, now let's move to our next talking point, and it's on the U.S., U.S. to halt all financial aid to Nigeria over persistent insecurity crisis. That's from the Business NG. And we know that the country is one who has also, survived different areas. You look at the medical area and all of that, gets, funding from USAID and all. What does this mean? If Nigeria loses, funding from the U.S., can we realistically fill those voids? Let's start with Nze.
Honestly, I got shocked when I saw it on the cover lead of Business Edge, because we know that much as we brag and boast that we are the giant of Africa, we still rely on countries like US. We have seen how many times we have gone a borrowing, despite the fact that we claim to be the giant of Africa. There is just last month, the federal government borrowed twice or requested for loan twice. And these loans have all been approved by the National Assembly. And we know that, especially like you said, in the health sector, and the U.S. has always been there for Nigeria. But what the U.S. is doing also is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to Nigeria. Because we all know that insecurity has taken over this country, both within and outside the government. What do I mean is, this is a country that has relied majorly on paying ransom instead of nipping the insecurity on the bud. There is no week churches are not attacked, travelers are not attacked, communities are not attacked. In fact, it has become a daily routine in the Northwest, states like Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina, that terrorists will just go attack them, abduct, ask for ransom. Just yesterday, we heard that some children abducted in Kwara State, they're asking for 1 billion naira. You can now see that the ransom demand is going up. Because when they ask for 10 naira, you pay. The next time they will ask for 15 naira. When you pay, they will continue to top it. You can imagine terrorists asking for 1 billion naira ransom for them to release Nigerian children. So I think the U.S. move, much as we see it as it will continue, it will affect the country seriously. But it is a wake-up call for the country to do more in this fight against terrorism. You see, early this week, the president and his ruling APC came up with blaming politicians, his opponents, for fueling insecurity. But that shouldn't have come, as far as I'm concerned, because this thing has always been there. These activities of terrorists, which some of them call bandits, have always been there, even before the rising tension in the Nigerian in the political listing. Because if you look at it, right from the time of the thing developed more during the 8 years of former late President Muhammadu Buhari. But they kept telling us that they have curtailed it, they have contained the terrorists, but we are now seeing it. I'm not ruling out that politicians may not have a hand in it. But saying that it is your opponents that are now fueling it, I mean, it is something Nigerians cannot take, because this thing has been, what you should be telling Nigerians is, I am out to face these people, and they tell us measures to make sure that this thing does not continue. Because if it continues like this, who knows what the EU will do after US? Who knows what UK will do after this? It is too bad, and it's a wake-up call for Nigeria to fight terrorism with all its arsenal.
Also, now looking at this headline, before you chip in, isn't it sort of a surprise? Because not long ago, we saw where the First Lady went to the U.S., you know, even the U.S. President did acknowledge her presence, you know, in one of the conferences there. And we thought it was a resurgence in terms of diplomatic, you know, ties between U.S. and Nigeria. But so, it's not looking like that.
What you should understand is that the report is emanating from a proposal in the United States Congress. And I must say, unlike in Nigeria, where Congress or the National Assembly is simply almost impotent in driving foreign policy or driving initiatives, because they all wait for what Villa has said. You understand? Yeah. But this proposal is coming from the Congress as part of the 2028 appropriation bill. And it is initiated by Representative Riley Moore, who is proposing that on 50% of the aid proposed for Nigeria should be withheld until the Secretary of State certifies that Nigeria is carrying out policies and measures to curtail Christian genocide in Nigeria. That except he certifies, you know, it is generally, there's a concurrence of views, both in the White House and in Congress, that there is Christian genocide in Nigeria. So what Riley Moore is saying is that this 50% of what is meant for Nigeria should be withheld, except the Secretary of State certifies. And the man issued a tweet yesterday. He said that it is unfortunate that instead of addressing the issues of Christian genocide in Nigeria, that the Tinubu administration is spending millions in lobbying Congress to look over the issue. He said that instead of focusing on what is really happening, and for me, which as a Nigerian, I feel a pity. I feel sad as a Nigerian that you have somebody like that talking down on my own president. And I think it is regrettable. It shouldn't happen. Because so he's saying that, that the administration should focus on the issues at hand. It should focus on addressing the matter of Christian genocide, but rather that they are spending millions in lobbying Congress to look over that matter.
Okay. Also now, moving on.
And you know that Representative Raleigh Moore was among the U.S. congressmen that visited Nigeria. Yeah. During when the heat of the genocide came up. And this is what a legislature should be. Honestly, when you look at the legislative house of other countries and you compare it with what is going on in Nigeria, you ask yourself what is actually happening. When Raleigh Moore and his team came to Nigeria, they visited Benue, they held meetings with their Nigerian counterpart, NSA and others. But instead of our people, instead of those who held that meeting to look at what they have said, what they have witnessed, they were busy celebrating the visit, seeing it as a victory against those who are saying, yes, there was Christian genocide in Nigeria. But this honorable member has returned to his country and said it the way he saw it. Unlike, like Emma said here, unlike what happens in the Nigerian legislature, where they don't have a say of their own, they wait until a statement comes from Villa. We have a legislative house here that specializes, their only duty is to convene and approve loans. They don't look at what is affecting this country. They don't look at the insecurity in this country. They don't look at the economic downtown in this country. All they are waiting for is for the federal government to bring a proposal and they will approve it. This is one of the results of such leaving out the core things that affects the people. Because when Raleigh Moore came here, like I said, the federal government was busy celebrating the visit, calling it a victory over those who aligned with the United States Congress that there was Christian genocide in this country. Too bad about that.
Okay. Also, still giving, being given directors that we can go on, the newspaper review. Looking at the federal government now, and this is a story from the Nigerian News Direct. FG establishes Nigerian aircraft leasing company to cut airline costs. Now, we've had this back and forth with the federal government and airlines. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a report on AIT where, Festus Keyamo, the minister, also talked about how some debt have been written off, over 132 billion naira. So is this the establishment of these aircraft, is it going to solve these issues which airlines are facing? Jet A1 fuel, rising to 3,000 naira per litre and co. Parts issues, like Oyema has talked about, the imports, cost and all of that. Is this going to solve those problems?
Well, I had hitherto commended the Bola Tinubu administration on its impact in the aviation sector. I had said, and I think I maintain, that the aviation sector is about one of the selling points of this administration. Festus Keyamo has been able to impact positively, especially in the area of the conduct of our officials at the airports, the era of show me love. When you arrive in Nigeria, the immigration personnel, the airport officials will ask you to show love. I think that era has been dramatically curtailed. But this issue of establishing a leasing company for you to lease aircraft, is that a felt priority of the populace? In the midst of the challenges we are having in the country, in the midst of the insecurity, in the midst of the economic hardship, you want to, mark you, I think they are establishing it for 2027 so that they can have airlines or private jets to be flying about. I think it's, for once, I do not agree with Festus Keyamo on this matter. I think it's a misplaced priority. The Fed needs government, the purpose of government, I will keep on saying, is to cater to the welfare and the security of the citizens. And in that respect, this administration, many people believe they have measured short in that respect. So I think what they should redirect their energy from that leasing company for aircraft towards releasing the hostage, releasing those who are killed. Can you imagine? Nigerians in their own country are being held captive. Nigerians in several areas, in Delta, in Edo, in Kwara. We just read about somebody, a group of bad guys asking for 1 billion naira. Somebody was kidnapped in Kaduna and came back with pregnancy, a woman came back with pregnancy. How can you be allowing all these villains to be everywhere in the country and you are not addressing them, and you want to establish an airline leasing company? We cannot even travel by road these days now. Why don't you address those issues? Those are the issues that are pressing Nigerians. It's not to be leasing private jets. I think it's with all respect, I think it's I don't want to use a harsh word.
Let's come to this.
Nigeria Aircraft Leasing Company. Is it Nigerian Airways? What happened to Nigerian Airways?
I don't think it's Nigerian Airways.
What happened to our May 28, 2023 Nigerian Airways? Those who led Nigeria into that catastrophic situation are eyeing different arms of the legislature. Some have bought forms to contest for Senate. Nothing has happened to them. And this idea is coming up in the midst of the high rising price of Jet A1. Will this Nigerian Aircraft Leasing Company reduce the price of Jet A1 fuel? Will it? Or we are just trying to use, when government feels they are being commended, just like the Ministry of the Aviation Ministry is being commended for the steps so far taken by the President and Festus Keyamo, especially when they try to intervene to stop these private airline operators from embarking on strike, because they also know that they will be the ones that will feel it, not the common Nigerian. Because you can imagine a Nigerian that is struggling to pay 1,200 naira from Lube to Bega or from Nyanya to Area 1. You can imagine how that person can cough out the high cost and fly with these things we are talking about. Even the palliative, the measures they are taking, is for themselves alone. Today, a liter of fuel, PMS, is 1,400 naira. What happened to the common Nigerians? What is the palliative? How can you help the common Nigerians? 85% of Nigerians use this PMS road. We are talking about Jet A1 for the politicians, for the highbrow people, not the common Nigerian. What are you setting up a leasing company for when the country cannot boast of its own airline? Or like Emma said, are you Nigerians, the more you look, the less you see? The best way to do it is every Nigerian. Everything should not cluster, should not be, restricted to the elites, to those who control the economy, because leasing this company has no single benefit to an average Nigerian who is on the street.
Okay. All right. To one that affects, the average Nigerian and everybody in the country is from the Disclosure News, and it reads, Ephraim police killing. Despite dismissal of 5 killer policemen, Nigeria's call for total overhaul of NPF.
I think what happened last week is really saddening for us in Delta State, for all Nigerians, for every person that values the right of life. Every person is entitled to life. What the policeman did, I have not been able to watch that film.
I watched it and it blew my mind.
No, I couldn't. I've seen it, but the point of pulling the trigger, they said the guy was crying. Let me take you to.
Okay, before you go, let me paint a mental picture for you. The gun didn't work at first. You know, the bullets didn't come out from the magazine. He pulled out the magazine, gave it to his colleague. A colleague handed him back a bullet. He inserted the bullet in the gun and shot.
So that means it was deliberate. It was deliberate.
Determined to kill.
And this is murder. It's murder. It was a deliberate effort. Now, there are now conspiracy theories around this. That perhaps they didn't want that guy to go to the station because he could spill. Because those policemen who did that, Amaki is not only the person who shot it. The person who you said helped him to put in they are all part of a team. And it's a Beretta pistol. It probably came from the police. Probably these are people who are involved in the trade or marketing of ammunition in the Delta State axis. So perhaps my thinking is that policeman didn't want that guy to go to the station and open up. So that is what it is felt. And one must commend the police hierarchy for being swift in pulling out one of the bad eggs. And we want and pray that other bad eggs should also be pulled out. But Mark, another thing is that it is because this thing is on video. The police spokesman in Delta said that probably that person was he was under spiritual attack.
Which is not a good excuse if you look at it from the Nigerian police force. But what is also
what I'm saying is that there are many more cases that have not been recorded. If it were not on video, if it weren't captured, probably there would be dapsters to it, and probably that man would have been still in service or still in his position, and he could have denied it that the guy was trying to escape. But this guy was tied. He was saying, let me confess, let me tell you what I will talk. But you didn't want him to talk. So there is a deliberate act to suppress the chain of evidence, which I believe those policemen on ground in Warri were culpable of.
Now, is this incident, should it be a push to the IG to listen to the issues of police reform? We've seen what happened in the past with NSAS, the protests. Such cases was what led, police brutality was what led to a protest in the past in 2020. So should this be mandatory now in the year 2026 for the IG to look at how they can reform the police with new recruitment and current in a few seconds?
Exactly what Nigerians are asking for. Because you just mentioned the NSAS. The NSAS, was it totally eradicated? Was it totally phased out? When you say you close or you disband a unit or a force like NSAS, what happens? Like SARS, I'm sorry about it, like SARS. When you say you have disbanded a force like SARS, what happened to the people who were trained in that? For example, these are some of the results of products of the SARS group. Like in some other states, there are also killer squads, killer units like this that have not been unearthed. For example, if you go to Imo State, there is a squad that is called one force like that. That is, also people have been complaining. Tiger Base. There is a squad called Tiger Base in that state, which people have been saying, alleging that they are the ones causing all the killings and other things in the state. I think what is highly needed here is that police must be reformed, even before we move to the state police.
Okay, thank you
Serious
so much.
reform needed in the Nigerian police.
Thank you so much
issues like this.
For joining us, spending a whole lot of time with us on the newspaper review. Thank you to Emmanuel Aziken. Thank you so much.
Happy Workers' Day again.
Same to you as well. And Israel Challenge Day. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, now we'll be moving to our first interview for the day, and it's on May Day 2026. Matters arising. We'll go on a short break before then. Do stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights, from Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rising.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's still Kakaaki, the African Voice, and now we're moving to our first interview of the day. And I have Amalge Chukwudi, Chairman, Trade Union Congress, FCT Council. Good morning, and thank you for joining me this morning.
Having me.
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll be talking about May Day 2026 matters arise. But first and foremost, let's start with how relevant May Day is as a celebration for workers the world over in general, and Nigeria in particularly, especially when considering the origins of May Day celebration.
Okay, so yes, for those of us who are workers and every other person, because everything a worker does affects the nation, affects lives down to the families, and we are the ones the workers are the bedrock of any industrialization or any progress in any country. So the May Day dates back to 1884, okay, when the Industrial Revolution started, and then there was this need for people who were working. Of course, it started from the West, not like it was a Nigerian thing, and then we've had struggles, realizing that there was no social justice. Workers were not getting. I'm trying to be as plain as possible, or as as basic as possible. Workers not getting what was equivalent to the outputs or the value they were bringing to the country, because industrialization is what moves every nation forward. So it was as a result of that movement, the zeal to change that story, that consciousness, and the movement started for that need to have social justice, to ensure that there is equal value for what was being placed on the table. As a result of that, of course, it didn't come easy. There were people who lost their lives, people who lost precious things. But at the end of the day, we are here today. We've moved from the West down to all over the world, including Africa. And so we have a situation where, even here in Nigeria, faced with similar situations, workers too have had to come out to speak the truth, fairness, justice. Oh, we are doing this, and so we should get equivalent value for what we do. And so what we do on May Day, basically, is to remember the struggle, to remember our heroes past, the people who have fought to bring us where we are today. There is nothing workers enjoy today that they did not struggle for. And so that's why we say aluta continua, victoria asata. So you must, the struggle continues, and we know that we'll always have victory. So May Day brings us back to that base where we remember where we are coming from, and it's so important because anybody who does not know their past would have problem getting to their destination. So it's important. So May Day is important because it reminds us, and then gives us, we ask ourselves, where are we today? What are the things we need? Where do we want to go to? And what do we do to get us to that destination as far as workers, social justice, and the nation is concerned?
Okay, now, looking at how it has been in the past, it was fun-filled in 1980, from 1981, but now, you know, May Day is more somber. Would there be any change, and or why is that so as it is right now?
Well, I think it's a contest thing.
Okay.
Maybe you feel like back in the day it used to be so loud, and we still have our celebrations on May Day, but then truly we need to have that somber reflection because a lot is happening, especially for us Nigerian workers. The nation as a whole is having so many issues that does not make decent work. You know, this year our team for Nigeria, for the NLC and TUC this year is insecurity and poverty, the bane of social justice. So unfortunately, the things happening around us these days in our country has not really given workers that room to be comfortable, bringing value to the country. So yes, you may be correct. Things are getting a bit more somber because there are so many issues. And so when you're working in an environment that is not 100% as conducive, it gives you, of course, you don't feel like you don't even have the room to enjoy social justice. And I believe that could be the reason why we could have that need for, why we celebrate, yes, we also have that opportunity to also say our issues, say our problems. That's basically what May Day is now in Nigeria.
Okay, now, I know for the NLC, they told workers, to hit the streets for states where minimum wage has not been implemented. Is that what's going to happen today? How are we going to see that going forward?
Well, so first of all, I would be, I have a limit to what I could communicate, actually. Okay. So I think I'll be more focused to talking about what's happening in the FCT.
Okay.
So to the best of my knowledge and from what all the arrangements we have in place, I don't think there's any issue about hitting the streets today, because we want to have our day. We need to have that environment where workers will be happy, and at the same time where we can talk to ourselves and talk to our stakeholders, being our employers and the government, concerning the issues we have to find lasting solutions to them. So for us in the FCT, I think we are already working towards having a very fantastic day. Okay. Everything falling in place as planned.
Okay, so what are we expecting here in the FCT? Parades?
Of course. Okay. So by 9 o'clock this morning, the Eagle Square will be bubbling because we would have workers from all affiliates of the TUC and the NLC present at the Eagle Square. And then, of course, we would have our moments of celebrations, and then we would have the very important part of it, which is the May Day speech, where our leaders tell our stakeholders our issues and at the same time talk about the journey so far. And after that, we'll go into celebration mode. For us in the FCT, we are actually going to be having our party. We will be having a little get-together for TUC workers in the FCT after the March past. Yes.
Okay. Now, some would say that NLC and co, all these labor institutions have not really done enough for Nigerian workers. How would you address that?
I would not, from my own experience, and I believe I'm speaking the minds of many workers. It's not, like I told you, it's a luta continua, victoria asata. Nobody really is going to just sit down and give you anything on a platter of gold. So the journey, we've passed through different phases of the labor movement, including the most recent one, COVID-19. And yet, somehow, we've been able to still keep the work environment going, regardless of all of the global crises we've experienced in the world. So I don't really think to be fair to say that a lot has not been done with respect to giving workers value for the work they do. Our labor movements have been so active. If we didn't have our labor leaders or our labor institutions watching out for us, reminding the government of what they're supposed to do, ensuring that all stakeholders do what they need to do, definitely we would not be here we are today, especially with something as terrible as the kind of examples I've given to you, including COVID-19. So for me, I believe we have done so much as our labor institutions, and we are also, the fact that we are flexible, we have stayed for years now, and the fact that we are flexible enough to adapt to different situations as they come. That, for me, is an achievement, and we are ready. We are ready for whatever the future holds.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mama Ogechukudi, for joining this morning. So what time does your celebrations, start today?
From 9 a.m. People are expected to be at the Eagle Square, and then we'll have our march past, we have all other celebrations, and the speech I talked about, and after that, our TUCFCT workers and our invited guests will go have our reception party. Okay. And you're invited.
Oh, okay. I was about to mention that, though.
Yes,
but you beat me to that. All right. Thank you so much for the invite, and wish you good celebrations today as well. We're speaking to Ama Ogechukudi, Chairman, Trade Unions Congress, FCT Councils, on this special May Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we're joining our other guests virtually right about now. James Ugochukwu, Regional General Secretary, West African Civil Society Forum. And we'll be looking at what happened yesterday with the Supreme Court judgment on ADC PDP. Good morning, James, and thank you for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Nigerians. Thanks for having me again.
Okay, great to have you. So now, it was absolutely a busy day for the Supreme Court. Let's start off with the Apex Court's judgment on the PDP, who had both appeals filed before the Supreme Court thrown out. Now, the appeal by the Taminu Turaki-led National Working Committee was dismissed on the grounds that the November 2025 National Convention held by the party that created Turaki's leadership was done in contravention of a Federal High Court order. Help us make sense of all of this.
Well, the Supreme Court judgment yesterday, for me, is trying to put the political party on the right path.
Okay.
Because they've spent so much time lingering on court cases instead of fixing their internal party issues and, of course, forging ahead and see how they can unite and form a common front ahead of 2027 election. So for me, Supreme Court being the highest decision making in the judiciary process, is simply telling them that, look, you guys should go back and start respecting your rule books, because it's because of lack of discipline, if I should use that word, in the political party system that makes them to be filing different cases in appeal courts, in high court, counter court cases and all that. If they can come together and say, okay, this is our rule book, and by extension, these are the extant law governing us as a political party under a democratic setting, I think all these things will not be happening. So the Supreme Court is simply telling them, go back and ensure that you follow what is in your rule book. And it's, for me, it's to their own advantage, in the sense that the Supreme Court can decide to be adjourning the case and allow them to be filing cases and counter cases over time till they will run out of time and we will not be able to produce a candidate ahead of 2027 election. Or even if they do, at the end of the day, let's assume the candidate even win. A court judgment will pick up these issues that are lingering and use it to remove the person in office. So for me, the Supreme Court is trying to guide them in the right direction, and I think it's something that they should welcome, because the court is trying to tell them that only a legally recognized process or legally recognized leadership can make decision on behalf of the party, and anything less than that will not be recognized. So a situation where you have different factions and all that, there's no way a ship can have two captains. So I think for me, it's a good decision and a good direction or directive from the Supreme Court for them to put their house in order and forge forward.
All right, now, the split judgment accused the Turaki-led group of abusing the court processes by approaching another court of the same, or of coordination, while the judges behind the minority judgment were of the view that the issue of party leadership is an internal matter for parties and not the courts to decide. Is that a valid argument?
For me, to a large extent, is a valid argument, because if you look at each and every political party, they have a constitution, they have their rule books, they have their modus operandi. Okay, by extension, we have the Electoral Act and the constitution that guide the activities of the political party. So now, politicians being who they are, and of course, some people trying to play smart or trying to disorganize the party, they will keep on playing this kind of game that we are looking at now, which is filing cases and counter cases, even though when you know that you have no local standard or even merit in what you are filing, you are more interested in dragging the party back, causing confusion and making sure that they don't move forward. So the Supreme Court, in their judgment, I think, is pointing them in the right direction, as I earlier said. So what they are trying to tell them is go back to your rule book and let that be the supreme authority before coming to the court. If you go to other parts of the world, they respect their political party, they respect their party chairman, and they respect the party constitution to the point that they are always very concerned of going contrary to what the party stipulates, because what that will end you is expulsion, and you will never come back. Remember the youth leader of ANC in South Africa, Julius Malema, was formerly the youth leader of ANC, and when he becomes too hot-headed for ANC, they expelled him. That's when he now went to find Economic Freedom Party or something of that name. I've forgotten the real name. So we are looking at the Supreme Court now that is telling Nigerian political system that, look, you guys need to start instilling discipline, internal discipline and respect for your own structure, for your own leadership, and for your own written constitution, not coming every time and using loopholes in your constitution or your rule book to go to court and be, hitting up the polity on a regular basis.
Okay. To our viewers currently, just to let you know that Kakaaki Social will still come up as well right after this interview, so do stay with us. Back to you. Looking at the crisis, and the judgment from the Supreme Court, the FCT minister has come out to say that all factions has ended, so he's assuming that all the crisis has ended. But out there is a different interpretation also against the FCT minister's, team, the likes of Sam Anyanwu and co. There's also a different interpretation of the court ruling. So is this court ruling going to actually also now create another crisis for the PDP going forward? Or is it, as it is, the FCT minister has said, every crisis is over in the PDP?
Well, I think what the FCT minister is trying to do is to, maybe he's already fatigued from the factional squabble between them, and of course the other people in the party too are tired of what is going on. Okay. So, but it's not just easy to summarily dismiss that all the problem is gone. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen in vacuum. There should be a handshake. There should be a round table conversation. There should be an agreement between all the warring parties. They should be able to listen to their board of trustees, at least respect them at the highest decision-making body of the party. And the board of trustees should also, wear the big stick and say, look, guys, it's enough time. It's high time we put our house in order and do the right thing. So saying that there is no longer faction is, for me, I don't think that is correct. There's work to be done. There are a lot of people that are still crying. There's a lot of people that still feel offended. So all these people need to be put together. The people that organize the Ibadan Convention will not just agree with you that there's no faction again. There must be a conversation. There must be political alignment. There must be need for people to be placated, and there must be a negotiation on what comes to me if we have a truce and what goes to this person. And of course, power sharing formula across board. I think that is what needs to be done before you can now say there's no crisis. So for him saying summarily there's no crisis, I don't think that is correct, because maybe he's saying this on the premise that, okay, but the convention has been nullified. I think what the Supreme Court should have said is to nullify every convention that they've done and not handing victory somehow to one particular faction or the other. So it's something that they should, come together this time around. They have the opportunity now. The Supreme Court have just pointed them in the right direction to come together, ensure that every single aggrieved member is brought to the negotiation table, ask the person what he wants. How do we move forward? And it should not be just gentleman agreement. It should be a well-written and documented incident that they can always refer to, something that everybody can sign and agree that, yes, this is what we have agreed as a party moving forward to sue for peace. Because if they don't do this, we are going to have a situation where some aggrieved faction will keep on going to the lower courts to file fresh appeal, and this will impact their preparation to ahead of 2027.
Okay, now let's move to the ADC as well. Now, the Supreme Court as well gave an order, to rescind the status quo antebellum by the lower courts as well, and then also ordered the ADC to go back to the Federal High Court on this matter. But first and foremost, that judgment, should we say, a positive for the David Mark-led leadership. But what does that mean as well going forward for the ADC?
Well, what that means for ADC, for me, is that the court is trying to tell them that, look, go back to the lower court where you started, and of course, convince the court that, yes, you are the true leader of ADC, and you did all the right thing that you need to do to acquire the party or become a member of the party. You see, the challenge is indiscipline in our political system. All this issue would not have arisen if they took their time to, merge into that ADC, make every process is transparent, and ensure that every single person is carried along. Because for the likes of Balana Fiu Gombe and other aggrieved people, there must be a lacuna in the process that they are exploiting. So if there's something that they follow a well-disciplined process, following the ADC constitution, and of course other extant law to acquire the party, I don't think all this issue will be arising, because there won't be any loophole for anybody to exploit to be taking them to court. So the Supreme Court is simply telling them, look, you need to go back and of course right all the wrongs and ensure that there's no loopholes. And of course, they don't have much time to do this. And if you are not careful again, the same process will repeat. So what lies before them now is to call all aggrieved members again, just as PDP, and let everybody table their grievances and say, okay, let us move forward. Of course, do this not as a gentleman agreement, but a well-documented agreement that everybody will, sign and, upheld. And of course, if there's no truce, I think the process will start all over again, and at the end of the day, they may end up having it affecting their preparation ahead of 2027 elections.
All right. I have to appreciate you, James Ugochukwu, Regional General Secretary, West African Civil Society Forum. I have to appreciate you for spending your time with us this morning. Thank you so much. And also, happy Workers' Day to you as well.
Yeah, happy Workers' Day. Enjoy your day.
And you as well. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so that was James Ugochukwu talking about the Supreme Court judgment on the ADC and the PDP. We have to go on a short break now and return with Kakaaki Social. And I have Rena Obozege standing by as well. Do stay with us.
Forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. The stories.
Hello everyone, good morning to you. Welcome. This is Kakaaki Social. Let's see what's on the space of social media this morning. We have the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, that has reinstated the leadership of David Mark as national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, as well as a faction loyal to Nyesom Wike in the PDP. INEC's portal has been updated with members of those leadership just hours after a Supreme Court ruling. INEC had earlier removed Mark's name alongside that of Raoul Faregbeshola as the party's national secretary, as well as other members of the party's leadership from its record. But from what you see now, just last night, INEC were swift enough to update both that of the ADC as well as the PDP. So you see now that we have David Mark leading ADC, we have Abdurrahman Mohammed leading PDP as well. Before last night, they were just blank. So we have national chairman, nothing is there, national secretary, nothing there too. But for Wike, this ruling simply means that there are no factions in the PDP.
Has also ruled that they were all wrong in against that our convention, which was held in Abuja here, has been validated, and that of the Amala Convention that was held in 15th, 16th of November in Ibadan has been set aside. So what this tells us is that there's only one PDP led by Abdurrahman. There's only one PDP, so we no longer begin to hear faction. There's no more faction in PDP. PDP has gone to state.
All right, let's take reaction to this one. I saw Ken AGK had tagged me earlier, even before I came online. So I saw this notification that he had tagged me, say, Rena OBO, this is a standard for democracy. Let the intellectual war begin. The best man must lead the good people of Nigeria. This is a true and white win for democracy. Enemies of our country should hide their faces. Also in reaction, now on Facebook, this user Akintude says, "Share na so then they go back and forth until elections meet them unprepared." Matthew Aderemi then says, "The same Tinubu judges Adebi, when judgment favor obedience, there is hope for the common man. If it goes against them, it's Tinubu APC judiciary." We go back to X again for another reaction to this story. Dr. Rukeva says, always distributing rice. Okay, this is in reaction to our next story. Now, the wife of Nigeria's president, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has flagged off the distribution of food and financial support to vulnerable households in northern Nigeria. She says the intervention reflects ongoing reforms aimed at improving the lives of Nigerians. The event was in Kano State, or Kaduna State rather, and it's of 100 trucks of rice and 1.2 billion naira in palliatives to Muslim communities across the 19 northern states and the FCT. It is to assist families as they prepare for the Eid al-Kabir celebrations, just as she did for Christian families last year.
On the 23rd December 2025, we distributed palliatives to Christian communities across northern Nigeria. Today, we will fulfill the same commitment to our Muslim brothers and sisters. A united Nigeria is not one that can overcome, it is one that can overcome any challenge.
Progressive governors are very, very happy with the Nigerian First Lady because where the Muslim gap she covered.
Your Excellency, you have elevated the standard of humanitarian service in our country. Your interventions are thoughtful, inclusive, and deeply impactful, consistently reaching those at the margin of society.
All right, so let's see what you make to this. Okpeyemi says, now we start from Dr. Rukev. We're always distributing rice. So what's this relationship between APC and rice? Since when did rice become a national solution to all problems? Insecurity, give rice. Terrorism, share rice. Poor healthcare, distribute rice. No electricity, take rice. Unemployment, you need rice. Another reaction, Abubakar Sadiq says, if anyone thinks David Marks, oh, we've passed this, please. Let's go to rice. Only in Nigeria, under the Tinubu administration, do you see more money spent on the paparazzi and event planning than on the actual relief being shared. It's a shame to see APC members in uniform celebrating while distributing crumbs to the poor. These vulnerable households have suffered enough. Their names are now just the easiest way to justify looting the treasury. Is this poverty alleviation or just a glamorous party meeting funded by the taxpayer? Also talking about this is Ebenezer. He says, quick question, who exactly is supplying these bags of rice they keep sharing for free? I hope this unending sharing of rice is not aimed at something sinister. Anyways, this is Nigeria, where every challenge, including insecurity, can be solved with the distribution of free rice. All right, those are some of the conversations and thoughts to that we have in Delta State. Well, this is coming from Lagos, really. Tragic details have emerged from Awoyaya, Ibejuleki, local government area of Lagos State, where we have the people who will be speaking to us shortly. They killed their 17-year-old friend, 21 and 23 years. That's the case right there. So from what we see and from what they tell us, they say that the suspect, 23-year-old Elijah Emmanuel, as well as 21-year-old Tony Ogenata, they said the victim was a former schoolmate of one of them. And according to their account, they lured the teenager under false pretense. Before taking his life, they then went on to demand a ransom of 150 million naira from his family, creating the impression that he was still alive. Well, they've been arrested in Ikorodu, Lagos State.
Why it was his idea was, if I had someone to bring, I will. But the guy the victim was his own idea because they were the one that knew each other from past. So he told me, he said the family is from, the guy is from a very rich family that they can bring up to 200 million naira. He said the guy should come and pick up a laptop to use and do work and all that because I'm a producer, and we said we should come and pick up a laptop he can be using, which was all a lie. We never had a laptop we were willing to give him. We just wanted to lure him to come. So before he came, we went out to buy a Ghana Must Go, a big Ghana Must Go, and we bought chains and padlocks. So when the guy was coming, we already had the cutlass in the house, and my associate, which is the victim's friend, his own weapon was a stick that he had nails nailed on. I went to the back, I went behind the victim and I held him from behind him. I choked him. We noticed that the guy is quiet already, which he was confirmed dead. So we had rope, which we used to tie the victim because it was too heavy, because he's not someone we can just lift and dispose. So we decided to tie him and put in the Ghana must go bag we bought earlier. Like we fold him and tied him so that it will fit in the bag. The first thing that brought the whole thinking was at least I will build a house for my dad and it will stop cutting wood and sell, and we can maybe I'll have my sister a hairdressing shop. And
my mom is very poor. She always fufu. So I was just like I should open a business, and me also I should go to school. They should forgive us, and if they can get me a work.
Well, he needs a job and forgiveness from the government. Big Tiger says this is the kind of story that reminds you evil doesn't always wear a strange face. Sometimes it looks like people you once laughed with. When money becomes more valuable than human life, something deep in society is already broken. Not everything is poverty. Some things are just a loss of conscience. Another reaction to this Truth Hot says, did you hear the second one's reply when they were asked what they want from the government? He said that they should forgive them and how he wishes the 150 million naira came. He would have used it to set up his family, and then that if the government can provide them work, that would be fine. Just laughing out loud. I mean, you kill somebody's sibling and you want to establish your own sibling. KZ says any kidnappers caught and prosecuted should be killed by firing squad. We need to send strong message to deter others involved in the craft. Well, it's not a craft. INSI says, I will still blame the government. These boys are seeing how successful bandits, so-called Fulani herdsmen, and other people kidnap, get money without any force from the government, so they feel encouraged. That sort of corroborates the other user saying that what should be done is just execute, not to encourage them. But we have from Delta State Police Command also a story that is yet again coming from the same Delta State Police Command. This time they are facing serious allegation after a divisional police officer, DPO, and other officers were accused of assaulting 15 women in custody in Warri. According to the report, the women alleged that they were stripped, flogged, and forced to confess to prostitution at the Ogbori Koko police station over there. The police command has acknowledged the incident and says a full investigation has been ordered with assurances that any officer found culpable will be sanctioned.
So what's your name?
I'm James George.
So what happened last week Thursday?
Last week Thursday I went to a shop in Delta Mall to hang out with a friend. So when I get there, there's Sienna that just bracket us, everybody run inside the shop, right? I followed them run to the shop, right? So when I enter inside there, chief security told me to stand there. I stopped there. I stand, Sienna come and carry all of us go. So we are about 15 in numbers. They took us to Okorikoko police station. Flogged some of us 40-something stroke. DPO instructed them to beat us.
Okay.
If she asks you question, are you a prostitute? If you say no, now 2 slap for your ear, they will close your ear, face your 2 sides of your ear. Lock us at that place for we to give statement that we are a prostitution, that we are doing prostitution in the Delta State. Flock us naked, flock us our private parts. Some of us dress come out, they naked stores and flock us. She was not the only person there. There's some men, there's other men sitting and surround us. Except the 2 guys who hold the wire and be flocking us. There were so many people in.
All right, let's see what you make of this video. Ima says, as a matter of urgency, every officer of Nigeria Police Force needs to go both drug test and psychological evaluation to determine if they are mentally fit to be in a police force. A lot of them are actually mentally unstable. This is evident in things like this. Another reaction, like I said, this Nigeria, you can see this same Delta again. But It's appalling what Ashawo prostitutes are of policemen in Asaba. The clampdown is insane and the resurgence is resilient. From Pinnacle Junction to ShopRite, Dawn and Masters, and in front of Elumas and Spring Hill, these women get brutalized and get both sexually and financially exploited by authorities trying to clamp down on the symptoms of our failed economy. And another final thought to this one, still a reaction to the development. Another thought would be that I don't support prostitution, but even if these girls are prostitutes, is it constitutional to flog them and even inflict injuries on them? Every dependent just they do anyhow before this country. That's coming from Vector Tips right there. Well, still with the police, we have another video that has surfaced. This one you will see right now on your screen. It's a video that has surfaced showing the same police, another officer, smoking while on duty along a roadside, and that is sparking public criticism over their conduct. The short footage, which is now circulating online, has raised questions about discipline and professionalism within the force. I mean, that's someone on the road right there that should be protecting citizens. How do you clear eyes and everything? How exactly would you be successful protecting lives right there? But police, where they smoke, where he knows they smoke. Let's see what you make of this video in reaction. Garrett says, officer will get exhaust pipe for nose. And you think after smoking, whatever the heck he was smoking, he will still be in his right senses, so be of good character and pass the right judgment. Another reaction still from X. Tell another bro says, the Nigeria police force won't see this one now and quickly sack him as it's just a disaster waiting to happen. The day he smoke high and shoots someone, they will call it accidental discharge. And he's hissing hard right there. More thoughts to this. OG Makoko says, this is fake. How does weed burn so much smoke from his nose? Come on, we want a reform of the whole Nigeria police, but not with lies. But then again, Ray says, if this one catch you with Benz, your bill now from 500K. I mean, if you don't empty your account and that of your family members. Well, to our final story for the day, it is frustration that is rising over data usage and data subscription, data consumption. The conversation is boiling over on the space of social media, as a subscriber has confronted officials of a network provider, went to their office to say that he subscribed 150 gig unlimited plan that should have lasted him for the month. However, it disappeared just 6 days after. So he went to their office to say, what is going on? Give me an account and let me even be able to see my balance because it's no longer working. Unlimited should be unlimited indeed.
Where is the 140?
It will not show on the app. That's how.
Then you can please show me on your system.
You cannot have access to my
I'm
system.
not having access to you. You can show me my balance. That's what I just want.
I have showed you on
okay, how am I sure now that you guys are not scamming me for the 150 gigabyte that I did?
I've sent you
Yes, where is the 150 gigabyte that I subscribed? I subscribed 150 gigabytes last week. Just last week. Unlimited. Unlimited. Be finished for 6 days. I do another 150 gigabytes. At least make I see my balance of the 150 where I do. Very short and simple. Make I know so I know tip me or I know they scam me. That's it. If they finish, I know they don't finish. You're getting me? Make I at least see the balance. That's what I'm saying. Make I see the money where I buy, the plan where I buy, make I see show it 00. And at the same time, the thing will not complete. And what they do now?
All right, let's see what you make of this. This user, Adebo Wale, says, you are absolutely not alone. MTN Nigeria inexplicably swallowed 800 gig of data from us without any trace and refused to generate a support ticket. I am physically at the FCCPC and CCPT Tribunal headquarters in Abuja today, that's now yesterday, fighting this exact corporate data theft. The NCC has already queried them on my file. Also in reaction, Oye says it's possible for the 150 gig to finish in 5 days. The man needs to find out who is using the data with him and what app is consuming more. Jagaban Baby says it's an unlimited plan. It's supposed to only slow down when a certain amount has been used, but not that it will finish like that. Another thought too, this too will be from Inyocha Emeka. It says if MTN says they are giving him 150 gig unlimited for a month, that's two contradictory statements. There is nothing like unlimited and also 150 gig. It's either unlimited for a month or 150 gig. So those are your thoughts right there. I mean, I think that is not even an isolated experience. You wake up to data and then you have to sub again before the day ends for you. What is going on? Not just this network provider, but across board. And NCC has a task on their table. All right, everyone. Thanks a bunch for being a part of Kakaaki Social this morning. ADC is rejoicing. APC is rejoicing, parties are rejoicing, but ADC, this is an apparent victory. Maybe you are going back to the Federal High Court. May 10 is there, 9 days to May 10 to submit party register, and party primary started long ago in April 23rd. And what is going on?
Kakaaki, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scam you. But Baba say, no be by gra, you must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
To Kakaaki, the African Voice. I hope you enjoyed Kakaaki Social there with Rena Obozege. Now we're bringing you a report on the PDP issue with the Supreme Court as the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike is speaking. And the Minister says the Supreme Court's dismissal of the appeal filed by the Kabiru Turaki-led group over the Ibadan National Convention has effectively ended factional divisions within the People's Democratic Party. Now the Supreme Court, in its judgment delivered on Thursday, invalidated the PDP National Convention held in Ibadan from November 15 to 16, 2025, which produced executives aligned with Taminu Turaki. So, speaking to journalists in his Abuja residence, the FCT Minister had this to say. Let's check this report.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court effectively, today, the Supreme Court effectively put to rest the little crisis, let me describe it that way, in your party, the PDP. What is your response to this, and what does it entail for the future of the PDP?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank God Almighty that today, the 30th of April 2027, brought to the end of so-called factions of PDP by the judgment of the Supreme Court today, so that you, the media houses, will no longer say the faction of Turaki. So such faction does not exist any longer because the Apex Court has finally nailed that. The Apex Court dismissed the appeals filed by Turaki and his cohorts One against the judgment of the Court of Appeal as it relates to His Excellency Sule Lamido's matter at the Federal High Court, which was decided by Justice Leafield, and then went to the Court of Appeal, and the appeal was dismissed. Again, the Kakaaki group went on appeal to Supreme Court over the Austin Wachukwu and his colleagues who went to the Federal High Court before Justice Omotosho. Justice Omotosho gave judgment saying that, look, whatever the PDP tend to do was wrong because of flouting the various constitutions of the party, the Electoral Act, and all other extant laws. And the Kakaaki faction felt satisfied. Of course, went to the Court of Appeal, they lost, and they also went ahead to the Apex Court. Today, the Apex Court has also ruled that they were all wrong. In against that our convention, which was held in Abuja here, has been validated, and that of the Amala Convention that was held in 16th of November in Ibadan has been set aside. So what this tells us is that there's only one PDP led by Abraham Man. There's only one PDP, so we no longer begin to hear faction. There's no more faction in PDP. PDP has gone to stay. And I've always said it before, and that it's a matter of people understanding what they were doing. The mere fact that you are in power or you are in position does not mean that you carry out acts as if you have no law regulating. There are no rules regulating the activities of the party. There are rules which you must comply with. And I thank God Almighty that this is where we are. My brother Baran Mohammed and my friend Shea Makinde, who are here now, is holding opposition coalition meetings, which we are not part. We are the main opposition party, and I don't know where they will be heading to now. I don't know where they will be heading to. And now again, when you see that there's a judgment, I think against the ADC by Federal High Court yesterday, saying that INEC should not recognize everything. So all their hopes are dashed. So I don't know which of the parties they will not go into.
So those who left your party for the ADC, people like Atiku and Co, would you want them to come back? Would you be calling on them to come back?
No, because they are not electoral assets. They are electoral liabilities. But we do know that there are some people who left because of the fact that they are not quite sure the way things were going. They didn't know who would be responsible for signing their forms and moving to INEC. Now they know, and now they see that going to ADC is another problem. So I think those ones are coming back. But not those who originally, from inception, had wanted to bring PDP down, who have been electoral liabilities to the party. And so we don't want to take those ones back to PDP.
Okay, so your party, like you said, is the main opposition now. If, for instance, the ADC, peradventure, approaches your party to form a broad-based opposition to the APC, would you agree to that? We
don't do opposition for opposition's sake. Our opposition is very constructive, not opposition because, I don't like A. Anything A says, no, even if it is real, what you have said is not true. No, we will not. And I can tell you that even if you wanted to say more than 20 times, we will not accept the Atiku group to say that they want to join us and to form opposition. We don't want that kind of opposition. Opposition that is destructive. Opposition that does not mean opposition is merely to call attention of the ruling party or the ruling government. Certain things they are not doing. Opposition is not able to destroy the country. If it is not you, nothing will go, nothing will move forward. So we cannot work with Atiku group under ADC. We cannot.
Okay, sir. You are a lawyer. I believe you must have gone through some of these judgments, even if not the satisfied through court. What would you say would be the possible implications for the case that the ADC has filed before the court.
That's what he said. He said what? ADC?
ADC, yes.
You said ADC?
Yes, ADC. ADC, yes.
Yes,
So
yes.
you still have another case in court.
Yeah.
I am saying, as a lawyer, looking at the judgment of the court on the PDP, and of course, there's another one of the ADC. Today we have another one that ADC should go back to the Federal High Court for continuation of.
Okay, I said what you're saying, the import of that.
Yes.
My own understanding, and I'm not claiming to be an expert in that, but my own understanding, first of all, what was the appeal by the ADC to Supreme Court? And this would not let the public know all the abuses by ADC against INEC chairman has now been made known that INEC chairman was right, or the INEC commission was right when they interpreted the status quo ante-bellum, that ADC was raising hula baloo, this is not the beginning, the court never said so. But from the Supreme Court judgment, if that ante-bellum was not affecting them, they would not have gone on appeal and raised it as a ground of appeal. In fact, ground 7 of the ground of appeal is querying on that status quo ante-bellum. And now Supreme Court today said we are vacating that ante-bellum. It means, according to ADC, it was injurious to them. What it means that what the Supreme Court said, look, yes, the Court of Appeal said status quo ante-bellum, that yes, they have power to make preservatory order, right? And that order that Court of Appeal made was, of course, not in favor of Congo. Is that if you look at the ruling or the judgment of the Court of Appeal, it says, what are you appealing? The lower court, being the Federal High Court, has not made any order. All they have said, put them on notice, right? So my thinking that the Supreme Court may have said, look, if the Federal High Court has not made any order or has not given any ruling, then what is the essence of you giving an injunction? That's my own understanding. But assuming, though not conceding, that from what I'm seeing on the scroll bar by the various television, particularly channels, that said the import of this vacation of status quo ante-bellum is that the leadership of the David Mark has been restored. I'm not a member of ADC. I'm not talking about anything. But however, assuming that is the correct position, now the judgment of the Federal High Court yesterday that said, no, barring INEC, don't even take anything from them, this and that. So ADC is still in a big problem. Whether they go back to Federal High Court, that means the matter must have to continue until the final judgment of that court is given. But before that final judgment of that court comes, there's already a judgment by the same Federal High Court that has barred them from doing anything, from recognizing whatever the Remark group has done. It's like what happened in PDP. There are two matters. One was by Justice Omotosho, which actions were taken by Austin and his colleagues. Now, there's another one which was filed by Alai Sule Lamido, which was before Justice Lifu. Now, remember, Justice Omotosho's matter had come out before Justice Lifu. Omotosho's judgment came out first. And then when
Justice Livi's judgment was to give strength to the judgment of Justice Omotosho, in which case there were two judgments against Turaki group, and which they violated or disrespected and went ahead to hold the Amala Convention in Ibadan. So as it stands today, or as it stands now for me, is that ADC is neither here nor there. In whichever way you look at it, there's no way it has given them any upper hand. And that's why I have said, look, in politics, you must have to make sacrifice. It's by failing to make sacrifice, that's why so many people have this problem. If at the time in PDP, we are telling Damagu and the likes of Bala and Sheyi Makinde, there's no need for us to go ahead and do this. Let us come back, form a caretaker committee, and forge ahead. They said no. That is what had led today. That's what today is concerned, that everything they have done has been set aside. So as it is now, I don't know where they're going to head to. I'm not in ADC. You asked me a question, what's my understanding as a lawyer? And that's what I said. Not that I'm in ADC for me to, or I'm against them, no. But I don't like the party. Not that I'm against them, no. Because those in the party are those who have set Nigeria backward, who have opportunities to move this country forward. But because they failed, they cannot, stay away from power. And then you see them every day from party A to party B, from party B to party C. Don't also be surprised that they are likely to move to another party. Just don't be surprised. That's my view.
Your Excellency, sir, from the Supreme Court, there's indication that the court affirmed the suspension of the PDP secretary, and if that is correct, don't you think it's time for both parties to sit down?
No, Judge, I don't want it to go further. I will know the subject matter in the matter before the Court of Appeal. What the court was that the Court of Appeal filed by Jibade, not even filed by Jibade, what the court made reference was how could you have filed this appeal when it was said that you had been suspended or expelled. But look at it this way, assuming, though not conceding, that Samael Ajibade were suspended by the other group called Turaki's group, assuming. Our convention has been held, and the convention, look, all these people, assuming some of them, we have brought them back. It's the party. Assuming party suspended you, party say we have lifted the suspension. So it is neither here nor there. The same party, if they were suspended, why would the party elect them at the National Convention? Okay, let's say that they were suspended. However, for the party to allow them to contest in the National Convention means that the party have lifted their suspension. So there's nothing to bother yourself. If you have lost a matter, you have lost a matter. Don't begin to, like somebody who has finished lunch or dinner. The person was not satisfied with all the meat, all the things were in the food. It's only the one that he uses his toothpick to pick. Is it the one that will satisfy the person? No. So there's no time to see what they will do or find anything to say, it's not correct. Look at when they said that FCT High Court suspended, agreed with the suspension of Samael. You and I know it was not correct. What happened when this so-called people went to set up disciplinary committee to say that these people committed social offense or the other one, Samaya, we went to court to say no, stop them from sitting, right? And the court said, look, as far as you are concerned, you cannot stop them from sitting to carry out their duties as given to them by the National Executive Committee of the party. The committee was led by Chief Tommy Kimi. And Tommy Kimi recommended for their suspension. But NEC never sat to confirm or to ratify the so-called suspension. So there was nothing like that. The federal high, the FC court cannot say we stand by the suspension. Which suspension? There was no suspension. Rather, this committee was to sit. And some said no, not allow them to sit. So I agree that the court threw away Samaya's so challenging the setup of that disciplinary committee. And the disciplinary committee came up with a report that they should be suspended or expelled. I have no problems about that. But nobody to ratify that. Assuming it was ratified. Assuming it was ratified. The same party has said, we have forgiven you, we have suspended, we have set aside that report. Come and contest election. Come and contest election. And they contested election in the National Convention. And they were voted and won. So the issue of suspension no longer arises. It no longer arises. So all this, trying to pick something from here, the issue that Kakaaki faction have lost. In fact, why they cannot come back is an anti-party for them to go to say their holy coalition opposition meeting. They cannot go without the party's instruction. The party led by Abdurrahman as the national chairman of the party. And that convention, nobody can set it aside again because they have tried to set it aside by saying that their own convention was right. You heard what Justice Adams would look. You decided to disobey court order. You ran to another court of cordial jurisdiction. Instead of you appealing against the judgment of a motorship, all you needed was to do foreign shopping by going to Ibadan, to go to the state high court, that had a cordial jurisdiction with the federal high court, to give you that amala order that they got. And as far as I'm concerned, everything has been nullified and set aside. So the convention of PDP and the election of Abraham has come to stay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And that was the FCT minister there speaking on the party issues concerning the People's Democratic Party, PDP. All right, it's time for us to bring you entertainment and lifestyle. Do stay with us.
Good morning and welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am Chidera Izudui. Controversy is once again trailing Nollywood circle as Olakunle Churchill, the ex-husband of actress Tonto Dike, has publicly denied being married to actress Rosie Moray. The businessman made the clarification amid growing speculations that his relationship with Rosie had hit the rocks, fueling widespread divorce rumors online. In a surprising twist, Churchill stated that he was never legally married to Rosie, a claim that has sparked mixed reactions across social media, with many questioning the status of their union. This development comes as fans continue to dissect past public appearances and statements from the couple, trying to piece together the truth behind their relationship. As the story unfolds, neither Rosie nor Tonto has issued an official response to Churchill's latest claims. Celebrity nightlife mogul Cubana Chief Priest has stirred conversations online after announcing his intention to run for a seat in the House of Representatives. The socialite, whose real name is Pascal Okechukwu, made the declaration in a recent statement, assuring Nigerians that his interest in politics is driven by service, not personal gain. In his words, "I'm not coming to steal money. a remark that has since gone viral and sparked mixed reactions across social media platforms. Cubana chief priest emphasized his desire to contribute meaningfully to national development, promising transparency and accountability if elected. While some supporters have welcomed the move, others remain skeptical, questioning the growing trend of celebrities venturing into politics. As political activities gradually build towards future elections, his announcement adds to the list of public figures seeking to transition from entertainment and business into governance. A man has pleaded guilty to plotting an attack at the concert by global pop star Taylor Swift, in a case that has raised fresh concerns about safety at major entertainment events. According to prosecutors, the suspect admitted to planning a violent incident at one of the singer's shows, though authorities say the plot was disrupted before it could even be carried out. Investigators revealed that the individual has taken steps towards executing the plan, prompting swift intervention from law enforcement. While no injuries were reported, officials say the seriousness of the threat, noting that heightened security measures have been put in place throughout Swift's tour. The case underscores ongoing security challenges faced by large-scale concerts and public gatherings, even as fans continue to turn out in massive numbers for the singer's record-breaking performances. The suspect is expected to face sentencing in coming months. An 86-year-old dancer is inspiring audiences around the world, proving that passion and persistence can outlast time itself. Describing herself as incredibly blessed, the veteran performer says her decades-long career has been fueled by discipline, joy, and an unshakable love for dance. She credits her longevity to staying active, maintaining a positive mindset, and continuously evolving with the art form even well into her 80s. The dancer, who still rehearses regularly, says she never focused on age as a limitation, but rather as a testament to experience and growth. Her story is now resonating with fans across generations, serving as a powerful reminder that it is never too late to keep doing what you love. She hopes her journey will inspire others to pursue their passion fearlessly, no matter your age. That is an entertainment and lifestyle. I am Chidera Isudui.
Thank you, Chidera Izidoye. That was lovely entertainment and lifestyle. All right, we've come to the end of Kakaaki, the African Voice for today and the week. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, a happy Workers' Day to you out there. If you're here in the FCT, you can join the TUC at Eagle Square at 9 a.m. as our guest earlier on said. And, enjoy all the celebrations and festivities, and good luck to every single worker out there. And hopefully your efforts that you put in will definitely reap a lot of fruits for you going forward in your career. My name is Chukwuyonum Onwuka. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.